for November the 14th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Keller?
Here.
Mr. DeGenova?
Here.
Mr. Rohr?
Here.
Mr. Hellinger?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Here. Item 2 on the agenda is invocation, which tonight will be led by Councilman Chris Jones, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please stand.
Could all bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering. It's always nice that the community can come together and talk about our issues together. Lord, I ask that you please bless us all going into the holiday season. And Lord, I ask a special blessing for one of our colleagues, Mr. DeGenova, as he goes into surgery tomorrow. We ask that you please be with him and his surgeons, his family, and we know that everything will work out just fine. Lord, I ask that everyone who's at this meeting tonight gets safely to their next destination when they leave here tonight. And I ask this all in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chris. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the motion summary of the regular meeting of City Council held October 24th, 2016, as recorded and transcribed. What is the wish of council?
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion by Mr. Hellinger, second by Mr. DeGenova. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary for the Planning Commission meeting held October 19th, 2016. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting held September 28th, 2016. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary for the Shade Tree Commission meeting held September 27th, 2016. Item D, resolution number 16-46, a resolution accepting the public improvements for the communities at Glenmouth, Section 7. Item E, resolution number 16-47, a resolution accepting the public improvements for Millbrook, Section 2. Item F, established November 28, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. as the date and time for a first reading and first public hearing of ordinance number 16-103, an ordinance making appropriations for the year 2017 and declaring an emergency. Item G, established December 12, 2016 at 7:30 p.m. as the date and time for second reading and second public hearing of ordinance number 16-103, an ordinance making appropriations for the year 2017 and declaring an emergency. Item H, established November 28, 2016 at 7:45 p.m. as the date and time for a public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 16-98, an ordinance approving the rezoning amendment for Delaware Development Plan LTD from A1 Agricultural District and A1 PMU Agricultural District with a planned mixed-use overlay district to A1 PMU for Coghlan's Crossing on 15 parcels encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road, and north of Meeker Way. Ordinance number 16-99, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit for Delaware Development Plan LTD, allowing the placement of a PMU, planned mixed-use overlay district for Coghlan's Crossing, encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road, and north of Meeker Way. And ordinance number 16-100, an ordinance approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan for Delaware Development Plan LTD on property designated as mixed-use, low-density, single-family, and medium-density, single-family on the future land use maps to mixed-use for Coghlan's Crossing encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road, and north of Meeker Way.
Whew. Thank you. Any questions on the consent agenda? What is the wish of the consent agenda?
Move for the approval. Acceptance of the consent agenda.
By Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 6 on the agenda is time set aside for letters, petitions, or public comments for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, we will close that portion of it. Item 7 is the committee reports. Mr. Jones?
I have none tonight, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have none.
Mr. DeGenova?
I have none.
Mr.
I have
Rohr?
none.
Mr. Hellinger?
Just a couple quick things. Not a committee per se, but the Delaware Homelessness Group met November 1st. And I was remiss, I had some notes that I wanted to bring forward to everyone. I will bring those next meeting. They're sitting on my dresser.
Sure.
So we'll worry about that next time. And the Shade Tree Commission did meet, and really not much to report there at this point in time. That's all I got.
Did anything come out of the shelter meeting? Any concerns or?
Well, this wasn't the actual shelter meeting. This
Right,
was a
it's
homelessness meeting.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and as far as the warming center goes, that's moving forward, under new direction with John Peterson stepping away from being the pastor there at Zion UCC. There's new people that have picked up that, and they're good on all their required resources so far this year.
Good.
And yeah, so we're ready to move forward on that, and there will be the regular point in time count at the end of January again this year. So anyone who wants to volunteer for that point in time count, there will be plenty of opportunity to do so.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Schaefer?
Public safety meets next Monday, the 21st at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, I'd like to take a moment to introduce someone who is interning in our office, Nazak Habatfa. If you could stand and just come forward. Nazak is a graduate student at the Glenn School of Public Affairs and is part of a program there where she is spending a day a week with us, and hopefully this will lead to an intern. I just wanted you to say hello.
Good evening, everyone on the council and in the community. As Tom had mentioned, I'm a graduate student at the Ohio State University doing a master's in public administration with an interest in local government. I'm not very familiar with the city of Delaware, but I've been getting to know the city of Delaware and all the people that work here, and I just want to thank everybody out for the opportunity to shadow and work with Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. And item 6 is presentation. Is Jill Pearson here?
I don't see her.
Okay. Well, I think I'll read the proclamation anyways. That's just since we have such a dear friend who has been fighting pancreatic cancer. Whereas in 2016, an estimated 53,070 people in the United States will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, one of the deadliest cancers, and 41,780 will die from this disease. You will not. Whereas pancreatic cancer surpasses breast cancer this year to become the third leading cause of cancer death in the United States, and it is projected to become the second leading cause by the year 2020. Whereas pancreatic cancer is only majority cancer with 5-year relative survival rate in single digits of just 8%. Whereas when symptoms of pancreatic cancer presents itself, it is generally in the later stages, and 71% of pancreatic cancer patients die within 5 years of their diagnosis. Whereas approximately will occur in Ohio in 2016. Whereas pancreatic cancer is the 7th most common cause of cancer-related death in men and women across the world. Whereas there'll be an estimated 418,451 new pancreatic cancer cases diagnosed worldwide in 2020. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of the city of Delaware are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research in its early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Therefore, I, Carolyn K. Riggle, Mayor of the City of Delaware, do hereby proclaim November 17th, 2006 as World Cancer Day in the City of Delaware.
Just comment. Thanks, Chris. I am going in tomorrow for some surgery, and exploratory. I started out as a stage 4 with pancreas cancer. And I'm in my 4th year, and I met with my surgeon last week, and he said the 4th year is a real vital year for pancreas cancer. So that's why I'm going in. I've had a lot of problems with my stomach of late, but I appreciate all the prayers and everything and comments. And we're battling it. When I first started, it was 6% making it after 5 years, 94% not making it at all. And still have 1.5 years left. So I'm hanging in there.
Think positive. We're all praying for you. Item 9 on the agenda, second reading of ordinance 16-94. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record. Okay, I'll do it.
Sorry.
That's okay. Second reading of ordinance number 16-94, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Heritage Ohio and sponsoring organization Main Street, Delaware. Tom, I think you're going to take this.
Yeah, this is a second reading of an ordinance which would authorize the execution of an agreement between the city and Heritage Ohio. We have had a longstanding agreement with them in connection with the city's Main Street program. And there were some questions at the last meeting of Ms. Bibler, who's the new executive director. She followed up. That information is contained in your packet. There were some questions about the value of the membership, which I think we addressed, and Ms. Bibler put that in her memorandum to us, which we found very helpful. It's our recommendation that you move forward with the ordinance, approving it. Councilwoman Keller did have a question about whether we could do it in a 1-year increment as opposed to the automatic renewal, and I asked the city attorney to look into that, and I didn't know what.
So I, sorry to interrupt, is it okay if I, okay, so I drafted just a potential kind of tweak, revision to the agreement. It's essentially a 3-party agreement between Heritage Ohio, Main Street, and the city of Delaware. I'm guessing that Ohio and Main Street want to keep their automatic, I call it evergreen renewals, where they automatically renew. But if the city wanted to have to take a step to renew, I added a line at the end that makes it clear that we can continue to renew, but we have to affirmatively take an action. So I can distribute what I came up with. The next step would be proposing that language to Heritage Ohio. It's a Heritage Ohio agreement, and I didn't have a Word copy of it. I had a PDF. So if that's what council is interested in, I can make that call. I tend to recommend not doing automatic renewals for city government anyway, so it would be a best practice to have us take a step. So I'll distribute this, and I'd be happy to take any comments.
But I really think the threshold question was the value to the membership, and I clearly see the value, and I know Mr. Eflin provided some information to council members about it, and coupled with what we have from Susie, that's I think it makes a lot of sense to continue the partnership, because we really wouldn't have the Main Street program we have today. It's so many different elements, but one of those elements is Heritage Ohio and the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which started the Main Street program 40 years ago.
Are you saying, Mr.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Are you saying, Mr. Schulman, if we want this, we not move on it tonight? We should have
No,
incorporate this and then come back.
I think it's such a small point that I would move on it tonight, but if you tell me that's what you want, I will contact them and try to get that before we sign it. Unless it's a drop dead, we want to make sure that you don't sign it without that. But if it's just that we would like it, I've been given some indication from, I forget who I talked to, that they didn't think Heritage Ohio would have a problem with it. But I think it's probably better. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's probably better for them to vote on it tonight. Because you're basically giving him.
I would think if you can take action tonight, I think there's interest obviously in continuing the partnership with them, and I think that's this really is a kind of a housekeeping item that I think we can deal with them on. I don't think they're going to have a problem with it. I mean, it's up to us whether we want to bring it back to city council. If we say that our city council wants it to be voted on then annually, then
Because the way I wrote it, this just said the municipal government may renew the agreement annually. I didn't say it had to be by city council action. It could just be a matter of the city signing off and saying we want to maintain it. So we can decide internally how we want to approve it. But I think in terms of, again, moving it forward, if council indicates to me that they would like to have that change that Councilwoman Keller brought up, I can carry the ball forward even if you vote on it tonight.
When I raised the issue, I had two concerns. One was our participation and cooperation with Heritage Ohio. I don't any longer have a concern. I had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Bibler and discuss any concerns, and so that's no longer an issue. Aside from that, the automatically renewing agreement just on anything would concern me. So I think that this language that we have is perfectly fine, and I'm very comfortable giving authorization to move forward tonight.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Do we need to amend anything, or are we okay with approving it?
I think we're okay approving it the way it is, but I hate to make more votes, but if there's anybody who objects to this, me requesting this change, if you could just say so now, otherwise I will go ahead and try to request the change. Okay, so we can vote on it and I'll try to make that change and then we'll sign it when it's done.
Do we need an emergency clause? No.
No, I don't think you do, because
Okay.
it takes effect at the beginning of the year. So
Okay.
we've got time.
So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 16-94.
All right.
I have a motion by Mrs. Keller, a second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion approving ordinance number 1694.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
This is just.
Okay, item 10, consideration of resolution 16-48. Elena, if you'll please read this into the record.
Resolution number 16-48, a resolution indicating what services the City of Delaware will provide to 20.445 plus or minus acres of land, more or less. Description and map are attached here too as Exhibits A and B for the annexation known as the Delaware Development Plan LTD, aka Coghlan Crossing, annexations by Michael R. Shade, agents for the petitioners.
Thank you.
You're on.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is the first step in the annexation process. As you'll recall, a resolution of services is required by the Ohio Revised Code. Up on the screen in front of you is a map showing, outlined in blue, the extent of the Coghlan Crossing development. It's obviously on your docket tonight, and we'll do a full presentation at your next meeting and have public hearings and all that kind of good stuff. But the parcels shown in orange up on the screen are the subject of the annexation and represent about 20, almost 20 and a half acres of annexation of this overall 80-acre parcel. Resolution of services, should you pass it, doesn't indicate your acceptance or rejection of the ultimate annexation. It simply just says what services the City of Delaware can and will provide upon a final annexation to these pieces in orange here. So you will have another bite at the apple, so to speak.
Is this the
Happy to
final,
answer any questions.
is this the final annexation, or is there more?
This is just the resolution of services, and so the final goes back to the county, and then they go through some process. It comes back to us. It actually has to sit on our docket for a period of time, and then you can act on it. Should you not act on it with 120 days of it appearing back on your docket, it's as if it's rejected. We wouldn't anticipate that in that case, but you can certainly then accept it or reject it during that time period. So we have plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Dave?
I just know this won't be the last annexation, just because down by, it's pretty complicated.
That was my question, really.
Down on Stratford Road, there are some bits and pieces and little bits of right-of-way that will also come forward for a resolution of services and then an annexation as well. That just required more sign off than just the property owner. And so that's taking a little bit of time to gather those signatures. But that
Okay.
will appear at a future council meeting.
You said the full presentations.
I'll go into a little more detail on the development when we get to those cases tonight, and then the full presentations on the 28th of this month. That's your next meeting.
Mr. Shea, did you want to say
Yeah, I'll
something?
just add to the question that Joe asked, and so you're fully informed. Michael Shea, attorney at law, and I represent petitioners in this matter. This is the first of two annexations. The next annexation is extremely small. It's about 1.7023 acres, most of which is in the right of way. But there was some land that when the city acquired the land for Meeker Way, there was a small portion that was not included, was never annexed into the city of Delaware when the Schisler piece, which is the bus Meeker Way, it was not brought in, and I don't know exactly why that occurred, but I didn't handle that, so it stayed out. And the interesting thing about the next annexation, not this annexation is fairly straightforward. The other annexation was filed today and will be on your next agenda for a similar resolution. Really, for all intents and purposes, it's just right of way and land that's going to be in setbacks. So it's not going to impact anybody except possibly bike trails and walking trails and things like that. But as far as development, it won't have any major impact on it.
Well, that's what I thought, Mike. I thought maybe you'd incorporate all of them in one. I knew the larger one was coming.
This has been a particularly difficult piece to annex. The smaller one that's coming next week or 2 weeks from now has been particularly difficult because we had what the county wanted was from 23 all the way to the end of the village of Stratford the road would be in the city of Delaware. Unfortunately, Turkey Hill has been not cooperating on that. I've had numerous conversations, letters, emails with their legal counsel, and they chose not to. There's all the land in front of the Historical Society is not in, and part of the land that belongs to the auto dealership, and then right across from Turkey Hill. And it does represent a problem for everybody. And I couldn't get that message across, and I apologize for that, but I told them that it's going to impact their customers. If an accident occurs at Turkey Hill, it just depends where you are on the road, whether it's city police get called or the Delaware County Sheriff's get called.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
This is type 2.
Type 2.
Mr. Shea? What is the wish of council?
I move for the approval of resolution 1648.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Where's skip 11? Ordinance 16-96. Yes, please.
Ordinance number 16-96, an ordinance supplementing the 2016 appropriations ordinance to authorize funding of a grant contract amendment and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause. This ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to allow seamless funding for the TBRA activity to serve additional low-income families who may not have been served otherwise, for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and for the further reason to, and as such, will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Thank you. Dave?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is as read by the clerk. It's essentially a money in and money out transaction. Occasionally with previous CHIP grants and other housing grants, they sometimes close early and they have different repayment schedules and that sort of thing. And one of the clawbacks, if you will, is repayment of some of those funds. Those go into the housing improvement fund that we maintain for what the state tells us we can use them for, but essentially those programs again. So in this case, this money comes in from one of those properties, and in working with the state over a series of months, Diane Gunther on my staff, I think, has done an admirable job working back and forth, and because we're administering a CHIP program today, we're able to use those funds to go ahead and help some additional folks through the Delaware Metro Housing. So passage of this allows us to do that. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there a time limit on this? I mean, do you-
They would, I would use the word immediate. They would like it immediately, but in the next 6 to 12 months, it will be expended. We think it'll be even faster than that. Delaware Metro typically has a list that exceeds their funding.
Okay.
But they also have requirements for reporting and in their grants that they have to maintain in terms of the process of this money coming to them.
So any questions for Dave on this CHIP money? Is there a motion for tonight, or do you want to take this to another reading then?
I'd recommend you act on it tonight if you can.
Emergency clause, because the
I know.
state's indicated to us, I should have explained that, I apologize, that they really desire us to move forward with this as expeditiously as possible.
Did we just get this, or?
We didn't just get this. It took a couple of months working with the state to get authorization to spend it in this manner.
I move we suspend rules requiring 3 readings on 1696.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the adoption of the emergency clause 1696.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the adoption of ordinance 1696 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 12 on the agenda is the consideration of ordinance 16-97. Elaine, can you please read this into the record?
Ordinance number 16-97, an ordinance supplementing the 2016 appropriations ordinance to provide additional funding for the design, construction, and installation of exhibits for the educational center at the water treatment plant and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and as such will be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage.
Good evening, Brad.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to take this opportunity to just briefly go through our education center that we have proposed for the water treatment plant. I'd like to introduce Mr. Veit Parks from Display Dynamics. His company is the designer, fabricator, and installer of the education exhibits that we'll have at the water plant. This specific ordinance, since we last went through the ordinance to get the appropriation, we've had an additional a little over $7,000 in sponsorships added to our exhibits. Therefore, we'd like to get that appropriated for this year, and that will bring our total for the education center to a little over $92,000. That's through city water fund and sponsorships from Shook, Ohio EPA, and the Delaware Community Foundation that we received grants for. So that's that part of the, for the ordinance to get that funding, additional funding appropriated. I'd like to just go through briefly what,
You could have him. Do you want to invite to do some of this?
yeah.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, that's right. Then
Yeah.
when we go through it, I'll let Dwight
Yeah,
take it
just
over.
real quickly before Brad jumps off here, this has been we've been at this for the last couple of years, and it's really an effort to take a plant that otherwise a lot of the public doesn't know where a water plant is. It's actually outside the city. A lot of them don't know where our water comes from. It comes from the water and it comes from wells. We want to our citizens, but also a lot of the school-age children. And so we've worked with a number of the schools in the area to find out what the third grade curriculum is. So a lot of what you're going to see tonight has been, the input has been collected from Olentangy schools, Delaware City Schools, St. Mary, and the other schools in this area. So we're really excited about this.
And just to let you know, we've had a number of organizations, schools, consulting firms, other communities tour the plant since then, and since it's been constructed, and a lot of favorable results. We had hosted a large water meeting of over 100 water professionals about a month ago. Very well received, and really amazed at how well the plant's performed and what it's done for the community. This is what the current space looks like, where the education center is going to go. It was an old loading dock. We enclosed it as part of from the old plant to the new plant. A lot of space, and therefore, we decided we wanted to move forward with this education center, and this is an ideal spot for it as we transition from the old plant to the new plant. I'll let Mike take over. This is what proposed with our central attractor there in the middle.
Mm-hmm. What we attempted to do was design.
You can
and
stand
build
right if you want.
Is that fine? Okay, that's good. I may be coughing periodically, so I apologize for that. Bear with me. One of the things that we wanted to do when we were building this exhibit, or designing the exhibit, was to create a platform that was easily updatable, where you could interject and infuse new technologies that came online. So we tried to come up with what we called a good, strong backbone. We see in the center there is a tractor. You'll have some colored lights that will cause the visitor to come up. You'll see a roll ball there in the center that will be able to play a variety of videos on a 50-inch screen right there in the middle. Some diagrams on the plant. You can go around if you want to the next slide. This is the entrance that the public, the visiting public, will see when they enter into the experience. This is the back side of the first slide that you saw. This goes further into other parts of the processes on the treatment. Here you've got additional exhibits that can drill down into more specifics. We're looking at maybe having some hands-on pieces there initially with some of the existing artifacts, maybe some of the filtration membranes and things of that nature. Down the road, we've set the architecture in such a way where it is easily updatable. You can, begin to interject videos, a lot more of interactives and things of that nature as time and budget permits. Right there, you've got on the Delaware water history over to the right, you've got a flip book where the visitor will be able to kind of scroll through a variety of pictures on the history of City of Delaware's water treatment processes for probably the past couple 100 years or 100 years. And then here's an overview of it, looking back from the steps going up into the actual plant where the processes do occur.
So that's
what kind of in a nutshell.
That's what we proposed, and we want to get this. We're pretty close to getting it finalized. Lee Yoakum and us, we've been meeting with the Display Dynamics staff. We'd like to get it hopefully installed and operational and tourable by the end of the year. That's our goal.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We do have a sponsorship opportunity, don't we, for upgrading one of those displays?
yeah, we're looking at additional sponsorships to keep this updated and make that a center attraction even a little bit more, I guess, engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We want to keep walk through there on others.
And like Tom said, we did get this approved through the Delaware County School System as an approved curriculum to allow school groups to come through here. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Any questions?
We did try to take some extra steps to ensure that the messaging was clear, concise, and complete. And that took a little bit of time to draw all that out and then tie that into the graphic content package. That's what Graham's alluding to. We're going back and forth with right now, just getting that finally tweaked.
Okay.
So that was the supplemental before you tonight. Just recognize this as additional sponsorship income. There might be more coming, but at least we wanted to get this taken care of so we can get Display Dynamics on their way to get these fabricated and get it started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 16-97.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of the emergency clause on ordinance 16-97.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
And move for the approval of ordinance 16-97 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Ms. Keller. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And item, Elaine, if you will read item 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. Sorry.
Ordinance number 16-98, an ordinance approving the rezoning amendment for Delaware Development Plan LTD from A1 Agricultural District and A1 PMU, Agricultural District with a planned mixed-use overlay district, to A1 PMU for Coglin's Crossing on 15 parcels encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road and north of Meeker Way. Ordinance number 16-99, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit for Delaware Development Plan LTD, allowing the placement of a PMU planned mixed-use overlay district for Coglin's Crossing encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road and north of Meeker Way. Ordinance number 16-100. An ordinance approving an amendment to the comprehensive plan for Delaware Development Plan LTD on property designated as mixed-use, low-density, single-family, and medium-density, single-family on the future land use map to mixed-use for Coglin's Crossing encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road, and north of Meeker Way. Ordinance number 16-101. An ordinance approving a preliminary development plan for Delaware Development Plan LTD for Coglin's Crossing encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road and north of Meeker Way. And ordinance number 16-102, an ordinance approving a preliminary subdivision plat for Delaware Development Plan LTD for Coglin's Crossing encompassing approximately 80 acres located east of US 23, west of Stratford Road and north of Meeker Way.
Thank you. Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is a first reading of all, as you saw earlier on your agenda tonight. We set the public hearings, or you set the public hearings for your next meeting. And so we'll do a full presentation at that time. I know the applicant has quite a presentation to show you as well, including some three-dimensional graphics and flying through the site and that sort of thing. And really gives you a sense of this site. It is 80 acres, and I just have been asked to give you a little bit more of an overview than perhaps I normally would on a first reading, so that's what I'm going to do. But this is located between Stratford and US 23 and the newly opened Meeker Way. It does encompass approximately 80 acres in total. And at this point, I'm just going to walk you through the sub areas very, very quickly tonight. And I'm going to get up so I can kind of point at the map here while I do it. I think that's the easiest way to do it. So this is truly a mixed-use site. It incorporates residential, commercial, as well as big box use and preserves. The site is separated into 6 different sub-areas. It is the most complicated zoning text for a single site we've ever put together here in the city of Delaware. The most detailed, the most design-oriented, in addition to dealing, of course, the uses, the base subject of zoning. And so I'll walk you through very quickly. Sub-area 1 is in this location. That first orient you north is that. There's Meeker Way, Commonwealth, and Stratford. We've looked at these so long. If I say something and I see your faces, let me know, or just shout it out. I'll probably just look through it. But sub-area 1 is here with the old James Barn and James Home. It's divided into 2 further sub-areas, and it incorporates preservation of these structures or attempted preservation of these structures requiring more process. More public hearings should something other than preservation be proposed for that. In the back of the site is proposed residential development, which could include assisted living units or up to 40 units of condominiums, either attached or detached. It's bounded by a couple of stream corridors, which will be permanently preserved, as will this stand of trees, which is between some sub-areas, but I'll talk about it now. So that will be permanently preserved, as will this stream corridor, which eventually comes across the historical, the Dale historical site and on down to the river, about right. There are a couple of other stands of trees that will be permanently preserved as well on this site, which is a little bit unusual for more of the commercial development. Again, this is a mixed use. The sub-area 2 then is in this location. It includes about a 60-foot buffer with a stream as well as landscaping and moving into 24 single-family attached and detached structures. It's in keeping with our comprehensive plan for the area. It really provides that buffer to the existing homes and allows for sort of on open site to continue that historic Stratford Village feel. If you've had a chance to look through any of the design elements of this plan, I think you'll be pleased with those as well. The second part of the sub area includes true mixed-use buildings. There's 3 of them shown here with ground floor commercial, upper story residential. There can be a little ground floor residential as well on corners and that sort of thing. But in total, these 3 buildings are about 80,000 square feet. There is a main spine road here, talking about infrastructure, and another access point to this sub area as well. It's the only one off Stratford Road. Between these 2 sub areas is a large area that's being called a commons area, several acres in size. It really represents an opportunity for some active use and active play area, because we do have residential here, but also programming for the overall development as well. And it's been very specifically designed to line up with the Stoneman Barn or the James Barn as well, so that when you see the 3D renderings and you really see the fly through, that will give you a very good sense of the design, the careful design that was made here. Sub-area 3 is for so-called big box retail, a larger commercial use that could be certainly in excess of 100,000 square feet. This box is shown at about 98,000 square feet. All of the design requirements for the overall development apply to everything, including that. Again, I'm very impressed by the design proposed for this particular building, and you can see that in the packet and more next time. Sub-area 4 are 2 what we call sister buildings, commercial buildings, totaling about 87,000 square feet, about 40 each. And again, located on a sort of boulevard approach into the development as well. That would be mixed commercial, probably some restaurants and other things. The unique kind of design is that all of the services, it's this horseshoe design, and all the services are interior to those buildings. So on the exterior will really be storefronts and restaurants and those kind of things, activating all of the faces of this building. Sub-area 5 is in this location. There's nothing preliminarily proposed for this lot at this time. It would have to come back to preliminary and final just for our normal process. But on the, one of the major corners of Meeker and US 23 is shown about an 18,000 square foot building that's mixed use commercial restaurants, with perhaps some patios and that sort of thing. Again, the preserves and stream preserves are incorporated into some of that sub area as well. This is sub area 6 and incorporates those two pieces. They can be further subdivided, as you can see in your zoning text. We'll talk about that more in detail next time. There's a limit to how many times you can divide those and how small blocks can get. This portion of the development does allow one new auto dealership for new cars only. Again, it has to reflect all of the design requirements of the overall district as well. Just in terms of access, we have the Meeker Way light, a proposed light at Hawthorne, and this is the Wendy's. So there's an existing light there. This would be reconfigured a little bit. We can go into more detail next time and have our engineers here answer any of your questions. So that's overall on the site. Your planning commission did recommend unanimous approval of this. And we'll go into more detail next time, but I'm happy to answer any questions at this point.
Any questions for Ms. Strickland?
Just two quick ones, Dave. If we were to venture anywhere around Central Ohio, is there anything comparable to this type of setup?
Well, that's a loaded question for a planning director. I think that this is pretty unique.
It's kind of unique.
Very unique, and I think it certainly is to our scale and our community and our size. It is a true mixed-use development that does not happen a lot anywhere, let alone Central Ohio. But it does occur from time to time. The way that this has been overall planned with the open spaces and permanent preserves and careful attention, very careful attention to detail, and lots of meetings and listening to the surrounding neighbors. I think, in my experience, I don't know every development in Central Ohio or elsewhere, but in my experience, this is pretty unique. And the process by which this came about is very unique. And again, I think we'll talk more about that. I know Councilwoman Keller was expressed being very impressed by those items as well.
As we look at that, I'm sure you probably don't know this off the top of your head, but what's the percentage of commercial restaurants, businesses compared to living area?
I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Are we looking at 7% business and this is 30% residential? Or is this,
It's mostly commercial. It is mostly commercial. I do know the percentage of open space off the top of my head is about a quarter. Pretty unique for certainly any kind of commercial development, but also mixed use development as well. We can get that answer for you.
I know I've followed it, Chris, from day one, and since it's in my ward, and it's probably 70-30, 70%.
Yeah, I'm not, I have concerns, which we'll address as we get further into it.
So Dave, what's the distance between, got a light at Meeker now since 315 that we configured there. What is the distance to the next light and then the distance to the next light on Wendy's? Because I thought our whole idea of moving it, because we had too many lights too close together. And this concerns me now that we're going to have 3 right in a row.
Right, and I think that's a question best left to Bill and Matt to answer for you. I can't tell you the exact number of feet between the lights. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I do know that this has gone through a very thick, and anybody can grab this out. It's out on our website, transportation improvement study, which looks at these locations. Of course, this road and its access points are ultimately controlled by the Department of Transportation. And so they've been heavily involved in that review. But the lights have to, just like 315 and 23, all the lights have to work in concert.
Okay.
And that's, you heard about that through moving Delaware forward and that sort of thing, using that technology. And this is no different in this case. In this case, we do have Meeker and we do have the Wendy's light that exist. And there are some changes to the access at the Wendy's light, but it all has to work together. Or else you have to kind of start over with the access points to this.
I can give you some history on Hawthorne is that when the last house was developed in Hawthorne, there was supposed to be a light there by the developer. And that never came to fruition. So then Connie and her group decided that would be a good gesture to put a light there. And I don't think the state has approved that one yet, have they?
Well, we've had not nearly at this scale on this site, but sort of the northeast corner of it, we have had some concept plans that have looked at reconfiguration of those, the so-called Walmart lights, the Kroger lights, which work in concert as well today. And there's actually 3 lights out there because there is a small cul-de-sac that comes off would be part of this development. And reconfigured. So those 3 lights essentially become 1 at Wendy's and 1 at the main entrance instead of 3. So you go from 3 to 2. But they do have to work together. I encourage you to read some of that in the staff report. Certainly can read the TIS, but we'll do a more complete summary of that for you next time.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Dave? Okay. Look forward to hearing much more about it at the next meeting.
Jeez.
What?
No, we're almost done.
We're done. Item 18 is city manager's
Yeah,
report.
just real quickly, but regarding budget meetings, we are scheduled, you set the 2 public hearings tonight. You had the year-end meeting, which is the 22nd. We have the Saturday work session, which is the 3rd. We have a scheduled work session on the 8th, and I know there's some conflicts there. And those are really the 2 set meetings. And then obviously, if we have time at the regular city council meetings, we can also use that as well. So we did not schedule anything for Monday the 5th. We had thought about that, but we could if council wants to not have the meeting on the 8th, but anyway, I just wanted to review that with you tonight to make sure that we're all on the same page with respect to the budget meetings. The budget will be presented to City Council tomorrow pursuant to the charter, and as I say, the first reading is set for the 28th public hearing.
Are we going to have hard copies here of the budget?
We'll have hard copies here if you'd like to come by and pick them up. 3-ring binders, we'll call you when they're ready. We'll also have a digital version for you as well.
Can we hard copy those with actual binder?
Yeah, we've got them in the, big 3-ring binders, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
that's what I got.
Council comments. Mr. Jones?
I have none tonight, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have none.
Mr. DeGenova?
I have a couple. Saturday, Oak Grove Cemetery, the 1095 Vietnam veterans. We normally leave the flags. We pick up all the flags on the veterans' tombs. We're going to replace the old flags, a group of us, on Saturday at 10 o'clock, and leave the existing ones that are in good shape, so they'll be there year-round. And which we're going to try it this year and see, because it's quite a job taking them all up and then trying to go back and remember where all before Memorial Day, where they all go. The 19th, Friday, is the luncheon at the YMCA for employees. Thanksgiving, and the only other comment I have is just everybody have a nice Thanksgiving the following Thursday, because we won't have a meeting till after that.
Wait, is the luncheon
This Friday.
This Friday, the 19th,
this Friday's the 18th?
18th.
Okay, that's
I'm
why I was
sorry,
confused.
18th,
Okay.
Yeah. My wedding anniversary is the 17th, 49 years.
Don't forget that one.
I can't forget that. I have a meeting that night, but I've already canceled that. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Lord?
Nothing, thank you.
I'm speechless.
You speechless?
Just one thing, as you know, we sent out some information from the parking study, and we're still looking to try and get time for council to have a work session to talk about that. We can either try to combine it maybe with Saturday's budget if you think that's workable. If not, we'll probably look at January. But we really need to keep that moving ahead, and I think the sooner we get a chance to discuss it, the better, so we can start thinking about what we want to get accomplished in 17. I don't know what your feelings are. If you think we can do a couple hours on the Saturday for parking, or we need a little lead time because we need to let them know so they can come and do their presentation.
I'd rather do just budget, my personal opinion, and just get it done. And then if we can pick another night in December, if not, we'll, but it deserves our full attention.
I agree, yeah.
And not cram it into another meeting, so.
Yeah, and I'm good either way, whichever works out best for everyone.
How long do they anticipate this would take?
9 to 10 hours.
No.
I think it'll take them the better part of an hour, I think, to go through the research, which would make sense, and this is however long it's going to take us to discuss it. But there's a whole list of recommendations, short-term, long-term, et cetera. So I think we're going to spend an hour or so at least talking about it.
So
I don't
two,
know, 2 to
maybe
3 hours.
2 to 3.
Yeah.
So would the rest of you like to, see another day in December? You want to move it to January? Do you want to put it in with budgets? I mean, that was just my opinion. What does the rest of you want to do?
I'm like you, I don't think it needs to be put in with the budget, and if we can squeeze it in December is kind of a tight
think maybe
vacation
January.
and things.
Yeah.
I'd
Okay.
probably say January, 1st of January.
All righty. Let's not set it tonight for January.
No, I just want to see if
Okay.
there's a.
I have had some complaints on Oak Grove Cemetery that the headstones have been moved and chipped, and whoever's mowing is not doing a very good job. I've had 3 different people come up to me and talk to me about that. So we need to talk to whoever's taking care of it and see what can be done.
Okay.
If anybody hasn't driven Sawmill, it's great.
Did
Make
the
sure
other
you take
day.
it down, and it's probably one of the prettiest drives in Delaware. I won't say the prettiest, but it's beautiful. So that ribbon cutting was, Thursday. Veterans Day Parade was on Saturday. I thought the parade was wonderful. I wish a lot more people would have been out there to see it and honor our veterans. Hopefully next year it'll be better. It will be on Veterans Day next year at this point, I do believe. And then we also had a great ceremony for the first time at the YMCA. The Source Point is no longer doing it, so there's a small committee that took it upon themselves, and it's done at Source Point, and it was very well attended, and it's very nice, and Joe got the award, and very proud of you. And
I just want to mention real quickly.
You had your
We
time.
all mentioned, we didn't mention the levy. It failed, unfortunately. The need is still there, and at some point we'll want to schedule some time with council and with the community about what the next steps are, because the needs will not go away, and they have to be addressed, and we need to get feedback. So hopefully we can set up some forums for doing that, because it was very unfortunate, but it happened.
I just think it's really important that we get feedback as to what people's resistance was, what their thoughts are, where they'd like to see all this go. So
Right.
hopefully we'll go forward.
Yeah, I'd
we
like
can
to
do some
public,
kind of a monkey survey out there and get people to answer that.
That'd be a great one.
yeah, I'd like to publicly thank the 2 precincts of mine. I have, I think, 7 or 8 of them, or 4 of them are in the Olentangy School District, but 2 of my remaining 4 voted for the levy, so I was kind of pleased with that.
And I would like to thank this audience. It is so rare that they come and they stay through the whole meeting. Usually as soon as we get done, they're out the door. So thank you for staying all evening. And with that, I'll look for a motion to go back into executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and we'll,
Take 5.
For the reasons stated, can you also add in a property acquisition for one of the reasons to go in?
sure. Sure.
Okay.
Go to executive session, according to the Ohio Gas Code, to include property acquisition discussion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adding that?
Wait 5 minutes.
Okay, just want to say aye to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor on.
Yeah.